Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing an important topic. Tonight we'll be focusing on Sinai and the development in Sinai. Sinai is a very precious part of our lands. It's a very attractive area for investments, and it links three continents, or the three continents of Africa, Asia, and Europe. It has promising opportunities, whether in industry, mining, tourism, agriculture, and all other fields, and thus it is a very important contribution to the Egyptian economy. The area has become ready to attract foreign investment after the success of the armed forces to impose security and get rid or eradicate extremists that sought to spread chaos and instability in Egypt. Since 2014, Egypt has spent billions of pounds on the development and the construction of projects in Sinai. The state has been in a race against time to implement several mega developmental projects in record times that include roads, bridges, tunnels, projects that all contributed to the development plan in Sinai, and particularly in the Suez Canal axis. Also, urban communities established or that were established on economic axis, such as agricultural, touristic, or industrial, as well as schools, universities, research centers, hospitals, and infrastructure projects. Unprecedented giant national and development projects have been implemented to support the national economy and provide a decent life for citizens across Egypt, such as Upper Egypt in the south, the West Desert and Delta, but also the Sinai Peninsula, which is the focus of our episode tonight. There is a great will from the political leadership to develop Sinai through the joint projects and a much integrated developmental plan. This what we will be discussing tonight in our episode. Before we move on with our discussion, let me here have this first report. And Egypt overcome financial crises through tireless efforts and sound management. President Sisi, let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi asserted on Wednesday in a public meeting with residents of Matruh Governorate that Egypt will overcome the ongoing financial crisis through tireless work and sound planning and management. President el-Sisi stressed that the state is trying with all its might to overcome the current hardships, as he spoke at length about the financial issues facing citizens amid inflation. He said that we do all we can to decrease the impact of inflation on the Egyptian people, stressing that all relevant state bodies will provide all the help needed by citizens. The president reiterated that Egypt was exposed to two back-to-back crises triggered by the coronavirus and the Russian-Ukrainian war. The head of state said that the state is frank with the people about the challenges we face and has been keen over the past 10 years to protect the citizens' interests, noting that the state is doing its best to minimize the effects of the economic crisis on citizens, he added. President el-Sisi affirmed that the ongoing state projects in Matruh have had a significant impact on development in the region. He asserted that the state has put great effort into improving the living conditions of Matruh's residents, stating that everything we do here has a positive impact on the governorate and its people. He noted that the state has a plan to provide water to all coastal areas and dig wells in non-coastal areas. The president noted, however, the difficulty in providing water for small residential areas in the governorate compared to bigger cities such as Al Alamein, Ras Al Hikma, Marsa Matruh, and Al Salloum. He further indicated that the water problems that Matruh suffered 7 years ago have been addressed. The president said that the state has built desalination plants, noting that one such plant in Al Alamein produces 150,000 cubic meters of water for coastal cities. El-Sisi stressed that the state will not miss any opportunity to procure enough water for citizens, asserting that they are working to ensure that the volume of available water will have a positive impact on agriculture. El-Sisi called on citizens to preserve the gains of mega project in Siwa Oasis, aimed at resolving its agricultural wastewater issue, as well as in the entirety of the Western Desert. Furthermore, the president cautioned that the positive impact of the projects that have been established may not be felt overnight. However, he stressed there is a great potential for growth in the western region, especially with the inauguration of the new Delta project in the coming months. The government is currently constructing a 174-kilometer-long artificial river in the western desert aimed at irrigating the country's new delta. Additionally, the president noted that there is a large program for the development of Sinai. El-Sisi also spoke of the planned express train that will link the Sukhna on the Red Sea to the Mediterranean coast, passing through Alexandria, all the way to the Saloum crossing on the Egypt-Libya border, affirming that it will be a strong tool for urbanization and economic development. Earlier in the day, the president inspected the joint security point of the armed forces and the police at the Saloum crossing on the Libyan border.
Right, welcome back, and back to our topic. Let me first welcome our guest, Dr. Said Kholy, Professor of Economics. Thank you so much for being with us.
Welcome. Thank you.
My pleasure. So the country is truly implementing a kind of integrated plan for the development of Sinai. How do you view the features of such a plan?
I always say Sinai, it has a great opportunity for economic growth in Egypt. Why Sinai? Sinai has been ignored for, let me say, last time I told you thousands of years. Now I'm talking to, it has been ignored for hundreds of years. We never utilized.
Actually, it was ignored for the past 30 years?
30, 40, 50 years. It always. I remember I visited Sinai in 1974 when I was a young, in my early age, and I saw Sinai and I saw the mineral resources in Sinai. Sinai, it is really filled with a lot of natural resources, all different kind of natural resources. It's already mineral. It's already in Sinai. So in order to really build a strategy for developing Sinai, it started about 7-8 years ago. In order to attract industry to Sinai, I specifically mineral industry, and investing heavily in that industry, it needs a logistics. So the government started a few years ago is to build to connect Sinai with the mainland through tunnels. We have 5 tunnels now. It goes from mainland to Sinai, bridges from Boursaid to Sinai, and so on. So because you cannot have industry without logistics. So logistics is very important in order to be able to attract more and more foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment, we have the raw materials, and our job is to transform this raw material into a product, and we'll be able to export it, and we'll be able to build a civil society in Sinai, building hospital, schools, university. We have 2 universities now in Sinai. We have a lot of public school in Sinai. We have hospitals in Sinai. So you cannot really develop without building a civil surface for the people live in Sinai and attracting people from different government in Egypt to work in Sinai.
Indeed. And to attract more and more people into Sinai, there has to be lots of investments and industrial infrastructure so as to be able to attract people's or attract investments and hence create job opportunities. Let me here take, how do you view investments and industrial infrastructure that has been made in Sinai, in different area of Sinai, that would really encourage investors into the peninsula?
The raw material, it is the major component in any industrial or in any investor mind, is the availability of raw materials. And as I mentioned before, Sinai filled with, they have a lot of natural resources, for example, for petrochemical industry, for magnesium industry, and all of that. It has a lot of resources in Sinai. So the raw material considered to be the major component in order to attract foreign direct investment. But so let us not forget, after 2011, we have the terror in Sinai. We have a lot of chaos in Sinai.
We had.
And now Sinai is fully secure and safe in order to attract foreign direct investment. Because investors, they come with 3 reasons. Number 1, it is a safe place to put our money in this place or not. So safety is very important, security is very important. The natural resources are another component, and the logistic means, it's another mean for attracting foreign direct investment. And we are working in these 3 dimensions, and with our government and the leader of our government, they started really to invest billions of dollars in infrastructure, in logistic, and so on, in order to build an industrial zone in Sinai. So in order really to be able to do that, we have to, we already had a strategy for developing Sinai, and a lot of foreign direct investment already operate in Sinai right now. And remember, when we talk about mineral industry, it takes a long time in order to really bring the final product to the market and so on. And the cycle time, it's already, I believe, 5 years ago, we have a lot of investors started. I'm talking about foreign direct investment, invested heavily in Sinai, because Sinai is close to our local market here in Cairo, in Egypt, and also for Africa, and also for our neighbor from Arab country, and close to Europe also.
Let's divide here the issue. So we have investments on different scales and on different fields. First, we made an integral plan to develop Sinai, speaking about infrastructure, preparing the ground through all the services that have been put, through all the mega projects that has been put. We're speaking here about roads, bridges, we're speaking about 6 tunnels to connect areas, we're speaking about networks of water, sewage, drinking one, and the desalination station also.
Absolutely.
We're speaking also about some of the new or renewable energy stations that were also made. We're speaking about highways to connect the area with the other parts of Egypt. And this was just to pave the way for starting this developmental,
absolutely,
integrated plan for the whole peninsula. Then we divide issues into several levels or several fields of investment. For instance, agriculture. And agriculture has been taking its, has been developed in Sinai in a very different way. Would you please illustrate?
Of course, the area of Sinai, it has different places, and if you take really a map for the resources available in Sinai, some of the area, it is considered to be the heaven for investor to come and use these raw materials and so on. And also, we started years ago, you know, I believe the president spoke about it yesterday, and we have really a water supply in Sinai. It's already in Sinai already to be able to make agriculture more productive and so on in Sinai. So when we talk about agriculture, we talk about agriculture.
The experience of clusters.
Absolutely. In terms of integrating industry with agriculture. It's not only producing a product or vegetables and fruits and so on, but also we in Sinai, it is really famous for medical plant also, which a lot of pharmaceutical industry, they will start to operate using this medical plant and so on.
Yes, but we're speaking first about agriculture, because agriculture is the most important issue.
Absolutely.
Since we're speaking about here the food security and water security and what the country is doing with in this domain, particularly in this area. Before we move on with our discussion, let me here take this second report. Yes, indeed. And the cost of developing Sinai would have been multiplied if postponed. President Sisi, let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said on Sunday that the cost of development projects implemented in Sinai over the past few years would have been multiplied if they were postponed. Addressing a ceremony for the inspection of the equipment used in the Sinai development and reconstruction process in Ismailia Governorate, President el-Sisi said that the total cost of these projects reached the equivalent of $40 to $50 billion. He added that the long overdue development projects in Sinai were undermined over the past decades due to their high cost, explaining that establishing infrastructure over such a large area was always going to be costly. The president revealed that Sinai is around 60,000 square kilometers, and people in the rest of Egypt live on a total area of approximately 60,000 square kilometers. In February 2018, President el-Sisi announced that the government had earmarked 275 billion Egyptian pounds to secure the future of Sinai. 3 years later, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli said projects to develop and populate the peninsula had cost the state 700 billion Egyptian pounds so far and are central to Egypt's national security objectives. Madbouli was speaking as he inspected projects in Rafah, Sheikh Zayed, and in Al Arish, the governorate's capital and largest city. Terrorist attacks in North Sinai have declined following a series of security and military operations. Comprehensive Operation Sinai 2018 succeeded in almost completely eradicating terrorism from North Sinai, as well as the Nile Delta and desert area. Addressing a group of representatives of companies participating in development projects in Sinai, El-Sisi praised these companies for working amid hard circumstances, saying they suffered several incidents over the past years in an attempt to undermine the work.
Right, welcome back, and we were speaking about this integral plan of development in Sinai, and also another part is the Suez Canal area, the Suez Canal itself, and the Suez Canal industrial area, and the potential of this area. If we speak about the Suez Canal first, and remarkably, we're seeing this year, first time, the revenues of the Suez Canal reach that extent.
The highest level, yeah.
Yes, yes, $9.4 billion.
Never happened before, yeah.
Indeed. So how do you view that, and how do you view the contribution of the Suez Canal and the new Suez Canal to...
Remember, years ago, when President Sisi called his people, asked the people for money, and we issued the certificate for Suez Canal to really expand second line for Suez Canal. And really, the Egyptian responded. He asked for a certain amount of money. He got 10, 20 times what he asked for. For example, he asked for 6 billion Egyptian pound, he got 60 billion Egyptian pound. So remember, this never happened anywhere in the world. So for this development in Suez Canal, remember the lowest rate for crossing from Panama, for example, in any other means of transportation, Suez Canal considered to be the shortest and the most efficient and effective way to transport goods through the Suez Canal. With the development of two-way Suez Canal, they doubled the number of ships and so on. And as you mentioned, the revenue, it goes for above $9 billion, not Egyptian pound, this year. And they are predicting a growth rate for the revenue for Suez Canal beyond $10 billion. That is a good news. And another thing, the economical zone in the side of Suez Canal, for example, Russia and many other countries, China at the same time, many other countries invested heavily in the economical zone in Suez Canal. And all of that, I believe, in the near future, very near future, it will start to have an effect on the growth for Egyptian economy. Remember, with this project, the unemployment will go down, inflation will go down in the very near future. People talk about the inflation. Inflation, it is already a global phenomena all over the world, in the States, in Europe, in Asia, and so on. For example, yesterday, China and Japan, their growth rate, it went down by about 1.6%. A week ago, the Fitch classified the American economy from AAA to AA. So the inflation, it's a global phenomenon right now. And some of the European countries getting closer to recession, and the Russian-Ukrainian war, it has also an effect on that, and so on. So securing food, as you mentioned before we will go to the report, we really don't suffer from any food supply here in Egypt, as many other countries, our nearby country, they suffer from surplus of food and so on. But in Egypt, we have really with the 1.5 million acres in Upper Egypt and many other places in Sinai also. It really, we didn't really get affected by the coronavirus, for example, for 2 years and for almost a year now with Russian-Ukrainian war. So we have really our food stock, it doesn't really get affected from whether it's vegetable, whether it's fruits and so on. But the prices, of course, because the inflation, it is, as I mentioned, it's a global phenomenon right now, increasing the prices.
If we speak here about exactly the area that was cultivated starting or until the end of March 22, we're speaking here about 1.1 million fadan, in which 239,000 fadans were cultivated. A total of 18 agricultural clusters were established with a total of 2,122 beneficiaries. That is with
in a very few number of years.
Yes, we're speaking here up till last year or March last year, and it's very well known that we are very much into the industry, or rather the cultivation of vegetables and fruits, and this is a big part of our exportation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. When we get back to the Suez Canal, and particularly the economic zone, and you spoke very much indeed about some of the, of course, big powers. We're speaking about big names coming to invest in the economic zone. We also have to speak about the small industries and the micro and macro small enterprises.
Yes.
In particularly these small projects that were initiated by the National Project for Community, Human and Local Development, مشروع, or your project, and how the state is really supporting such businesses, particularly in Sinai.
Of course, mega project, it needs what we call it as a feeding industry. And most of the economy worldwide, 80% from the size of economy goes for the small and medium enterprise business. And we call it as a feeding industry. For example, in the industrial zone, I saw it in Shanghai, for example, we have a mega project, and around the area, thousands of feeding industry. It is specialized, it's mass produced, and so on. So depending on in a micro level, it is very important to support the mega project, and that is the whole idea from revolving your economy, is to really build a strong base for a small and medium enterprise as a feeding industry. And that is what we started already. For example, in many industrial zones, we saw it in the last couple of years in all different governments in Egypt, not only in Sinai, but in Upper Egypt, in all different governments. They started to establish, for example, startup business, IBDA, for example, and with association with the government, where they give young people and small business enterprise all different kind of marketing, managing, how to manage, how to really make a feasibility study to make your business grow, and it helped them to market their product and service internally and externally. That is we're talking about internal, but for external, we as a government already started, and thanks for the leadership of our president, where they all visit for East and West for all different countries. With his visit, they bring industry. Instead of producing a car, we start to produce a part of the car, part of train, and so on here in Egypt. And And I believe in...
Actually, in partnership with our world partners, the first car, Egyptian car, was really constructed here, and it was announced.
It's already announced, yes. And remember, building a car from A to Z, it is not really, it doesn't, because now the whole world going with the supply chain, with the concept of supply chain. You produce one part in certain place, another part,
components, yes,
you assemble in a different place, and so on. And that is a model Morocco, for example, started years ago, and they have, I believe, 2 brands produced in Morocco, for example, and that is really what really happening now in Egypt. As I mentioned, industrial zone in Egypt, it play a very effective role in developing industry, and you start to remember in 2018, President Sisi, he mentioned 2018, it is a year for quality. It is not just to produce, but produce with high level of quality, produce with the global standard, not a local standard. It should be certified with the international standardization and so on, is to be able to have the passport for exporting your product abroad. All of that really, it helped in many different ways. It's not only a growth, but also reducing the unemployment, creating new job opportunity, and so on. And of course, at the end analysis, it will help us for our growth rate. Remember, a few years ago, our growth rate, it was in the 3%. Before Corona, it went up to close to 6.5%. Due to the coronavirus and the Russian-Ukrainian war, the growth rate, it went down, but not in a negative side, where most of our neighbor country, the growth rate, it was in the negative side. That's the good news.
Hopefully always good
Yes.
news. The world trend right now is go green.
Yes.
And Egypt has been on for this, for the work and effort for this result. How do you view how Egypt went into green energy, particularly in the Sinai Peninsula?
It really started years ago, but remember, Egypt hosted COP27 here in Sharm el-Sheikh last year, and President Sisi, he meant what he said. It is a year for implementation, for really supporting the green industry, green agriculture,
green hydrogen.
and already we have a joint venture with Belgium for producing green. That is what we see today, for example, in Hawaii, for example, the global warming, it is a major disaster right now.
Devastating.
In Greece, for example, a month ago, and so on. And the global warming and the pollution of the environment, it's a major issue right now. And if we didn't really, the whole world didn't take care of it, and it will be effect in a way or another in a very, very huge damage. And remember, with the green environment, with the green energy, we have renewable energy, for example, such as wind energy, solar system, green hydrogen. That is the power supply. Also for industry, we call it as a waste management. We reduce product or service with no waste. That's called a green industry or a green management. In agriculture, for example, the productivity of acre, for example, it doubled and it tripled in the last few years, thanks for the new technology, for green technology, which it helped us to increase our productivity in our industrial and agriculture sector, whether it's Sinai on all different parts of Egypt. It really, we working very hard. The solar project, for example, considered to be the mega project in the Middle East, and so on.
Another very important part that would take episodes, not one episode, but we have just few minutes. Tourism. And tourism in this peninsula, particularly this peninsula, which is filled with so many beauty. I mean, here from all sides. It's the cradle of civilization. It's the pass of all the of all the religions and prophets, and it has very special potentials for tourism. How do you view the potentials of the peninsula for tourism on every sphere?
I believe tourism, it need not one episode or two episodes, because I remember, for example, years ago I was traveling from New York to Cairo, and while I was sitting in the plane, I saw one of my MBA students stop by, say hi. I told him what you do. He told me I was on a convention in Florida. I told him what's this convention about. He told me about diving. And I told him what's the conclusion of this convention. He told me they put 10 hotspot ranking for the hotspots for diving. And he told me from 1 to 5 hotspot in the whole world, not in the States, not in Europe, not in Asia, rank from 1 to 5, it's already in Sinai, in Egypt. And I told him how many people in that convention. He told me it was about more than 5,000. 5,000 in Florida, hotels and so on. And when you have 1 to 5 rank in the world, and the Minister of Tourism didn't take this in his or in her consideration, and to attract this kind of convention in Egypt, that is really something, you know, because Egypt is filled and blessed with a lot of, for example, the Holy Family in Christianity. They went through Sinai, Moses. It's considered in Quran, and in Saint Catherine, it is considered to be can attract millions of people from. But marketing is very important. What we need really, how to market ourselves, how to market our investment, how to market our natural resources in order to be, we have a lot of competitive advantage, but we have to market, not locally, talking with each other, no, we have to be able to speak the other people's language, not our language. And marketeer is very important, marketing is very important.
Propagating
absolutely.
For our country
Absolutely.
on all different levels,
Absolutely.
indeed. Dr. Said Al-Kholy, Professor of Economics, so thank you so much for your input here. Unfortunately, my time and I have to end it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much. And I guess that takes us to the end of this episode of our program, Daily Debate. Next debate would be Sunday. Many thanks for watching. Good night.